College football's stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's stupid. And I'll get into why. I don't want to say that college football is stupid in general. I like to refine that take a little bit. But nonetheless, my feelings about college football are very strong. I watched the college football playoff games, the two of them, Alabama versus Michigan, Washington versus Texas, right? Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, respectively. I'm not a big college football guy. I've admitted that on the channel before. I probably watched on my own time by myself 10 minutes of college football before this weekend. And that's because most of my life I've spent living in a house with a fellow sports fan, my father, who watched college football on the TV. I've watched plenty of college football. Plenty of memories of Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, Bay Area native myself, rooted for him there. Um, Not a 49er fan, so not rooting for him anymore, obviously. But nonetheless, I have distinct memories of there was the kick return for the touchdown late in the game to give, was it Clemson a win? Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, memories of that. Last year's college football championship. But it's happened never really where I've had the opportunity to sit down and look at a college game from start to finish and think about players who may have a chance in the NFL. Think about teams, coaches, et cetera, right? And I did that on New Year's Day. Not a lot going on, had the day off of work. Alabama and Michigan ended up being a good game. Michigan almost blew it, ended up winning it in overtime. At the end of the day, a lot of my eyes were set on who's coming out in the draft, right? I'm a Jets fan. They're picking eighth in the draft. I kind of want to see where they're going to go. I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I think they're going to go either offensive lineman or wide receiver. I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. is still going to be on the board. There's some guys that are going to be on the board that were playing in these games. Adonai Mitchell is one of them. Although he's probably going to go later than the Jets pick. Roma Dunze is another one, wide receiver out of Washington. So there were definitely players I was looking to see, right? I'm interested in some defensive players, right? The cornerbacks for Alabama, I think, are both interesting. Kool-Aid McKinstry is an interesting guy to try to place in mock drafts. But at the end of the day, what captured my attention really was the coaching in this game. And we have two guys who are legendary coaches, right? Jim Harbaugh, mixing them up here. Coach of Michigan, right? Had NFL stops, return Michigan to relevancy, and has them on the doorstep of a national championship. And if he gets that, I believe he's gone. I believe he's going to end up back in the NFL. And then Nick Saban, probably the most accomplished college coach in the last 30 years, maybe even of all time, right? He's up there. He's up there in that upper echelon of top college football coaches of all time. Not only because of the talent he's churned out in the NFL, but also the success the teams have had. I mean, there was a time in there that Alabama was there every single college football playoff. But at the end of the day, it seemed to me like there were some moments where coaching really was suspect, right? And of course, I'm comparing that to the NFL where execution's significantly improved, right? But Michigan special teams, I mean, the botched extra point, the missed field goal, and then the punt return that was dropped that really should have been a touchback, and then the player ends up finally grabbing it right before it turning into a safety, and that would have been a disaster. Michigan would have lost that game because of it. Special teams were not special. And then on the other side, Alabama, I thought their play calling was suspect at time, especially at the end of the game. And I've heard football experts, right, have mapped it out why that play made sense for Jalen Milroe to be able to rush in and cut to the side, yada, yada. The Michigan linebacker would have been going around him. I don't buy it. I think it was a rough play call. I think at the end of the day, when you're Alabama, when that Michigan defense is a strong one up front, you put yourself in a bad position when you had the running back in the backfield and then sent him out wide as a distraction and just ran with your quarterback, who's not a big guy. Jalen Milroe's an athlete. He's not a big guy. And I just don't love the play call. But as I mentioned, I think Jim Harbaugh is not long at Michigan, especially if they win the national championship. At the end of the day, you see pro athletes all over these fields, all over this field in the Michigan Alabama game. And then on the other side, Washington versus Texas, a game that looked like it was going to be a blowout, and it ended up being a close one. I thought there was a bad play, a bad throw by Quinn Ewers at the end, throwing to Adonai Mitchell at the very end of the game. But nonetheless, a good game overall. A good play by that Washington defensive back. I don't remember who that was, but a very, very, very good play. Textbook defense by that Washington defensive back to win the game. Nonetheless, Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback for Washington, looked very good. And in my recent mock drafts, I had him um, slipping out of the first round. And I think a lot of experts have him at the back half of the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts sneaking up some draft boards, right? We still got a couple of months until the draft, and quarterbacks are at a premium. As most draft boards have it right now, Caleb Williams, quarterback for USC, and Drake May, quarterback for UNC, are projected to go first and second or first and third, depending on where the teams fall that need quarterbacks, specifically where the Cardinals fall, because they don't need a quarterback. From there, Jaden Daniels, quarterback from LSU, is expected to go top 5, whether that's to the Giants or the Patriots or whoever else is in that category. And then there's kind of a lull. And a lot of draft boards I'm seeing have Michael Penix Jr., quarterback from Washington, Bo Nix, quarterback from Oregon, and J.J. McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan, going in the second round. And although it's one game, and obviously my college football knowledge is not that adept, I think we saw in these games that Michael Penix Jr. is a lot closer to that upper echelon tier quarterback than he is the middle of the second round, where I think J.J. McCarthy's going to end up going. Nothing against J.J. McCarthy, right? I think he has a chance to turn into a very good NFL quarterback with the right coaching and development and such. But Michael Penix Jr. looked like the best athlete on the field yesterday. He looked like the best player at his position, and it wasn't close. I said yesterday, it was the day before, but anyway, that's just my opinion. Either way, Washington pulls out a great win. It's nice to see some new blood in the college football playoff. There was years, as I mentioned, Alabama was dominant. There was SEC after SEC team. Clemson was in there. Auburn was in there, right? It's nice to see Georgia, of course. It's nice to see some different teams make it. I'm kind of indifferent on who I'm rooting for in Washington versus Michigan. I was rooting for them both to win, and they both pulled out in the semifinal. But the reason I started this video by saying I hated college football, because I just went on and talked plenty about how I thought these games were great, right? And the NFL talent and the coaching and all that. The part that frustrates me is college football has a real lack of focus on the I almost said on the Pro Bowl, on the bowl games outside of the college football playoff. And we saw that with Georgia and Florida State, right? This was the 5-6 matchup. Florida State missing 33 players. 33 players from their roster because they opted out of the bowl game. And of course, we know Georgia ends up killing them. I think if those players had played, Georgia probably would have still won, but not anywhere close to what it was. What's disappointing about it is those guys that were on Florida State that opted into the game, just got their teeth kicked in. And sure, it's their last play. And a lot of the ones that actually played are not going to make it in the professional football world. But this is your last chance to go out with your buddies in the locker room and show what you got as a team. And I want to say, I do not blame the players individually at all who opt out. At all, right? Caleb Williams didn't play for USC's bowl. Do not blame him at all. All the FSU players that have a chance in the NFL, do not blame them at all. Because in an individual decision, I can understand why a quote-unquote meaningless bowl game isn't worth playing in if there's a chance that you injure yourself and ruin your NFL career. And according to Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver for the Jets, a lot of agents pressure these players into assuming that they can't play in the bowl game. It's really just a stupid decision. And in some capacities, it is. But at the same time, I think the NCAA needs to do a better job at figuring out a solution for this problem. Because as it is right now, I think a lot of the bowl games lose their luster. And I know next year we're going to have a 12-team college playoff, right? All the New Year's 6 bowls down to Oregon and Liberty are going to be on, the college football playoff. We're going to have an expansion of that, and there's going to be a lot more games that matter, right? And that Florida State-Georgia game, well, first wouldn't have existed because Georgia would have played a lower seed. I guess Florida State would have also played a lower seed. But nonetheless, that game wouldn't have existed because Florida State's players would have played. And I know that solves part of the problem, but there's still so many bowl games out there that I think kind of lose their luster because players aren't opting in. And I think there needs to be a solution. I don't know what that is, right? I'm not the NCAA. I don't take billions of dollars from these colleges and pretend to be in the best face of the athletes. But at the end of the day, there has to be some better solution here because I just don't. I ironically messed up and almost called them Pro Bowl games. That's really what it feels like. It feels like the Pro Bowl, which has now been eliminated in the NFL. It just feels like it's not really a true testament to what these teams were throughout the majority of the season, which feels like what you need bowl games for, right? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this is something that should be a further consideration from the NCAA? Do you think it won't matter with the college football playoff being expanded? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching this Quick Thoughts episode. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.